Reform Party.
So why haven't they voted in bigger numbers for the Liberal Democrats if they've been so disaffected by both the Conservative and Reform?
Well, they have today in Cheltenham, in the Cotswolds, in Tewkesbury, where the Conservatives...
Those places all in Gloucestershire.
But then we look at Oxfordshire, where we now have a majority on the council, in Shropshire, where until fairly recently there was a very small Liberal Democrat presence. Now we have an MP in North Shropshire and a majority of seats on the council there.
Lynn Davis, let me ask you this finally. Is there a danger for you in entering reform? There's some pressure to do that. We heard Progressive Rees-Mogg earlier today suggesting that the two parties should cooperate a bit more extensively because they are together the forces of conservatism.
In my view, you can't out-reform. On last night showing we can't outperform reform because there's a process. And I would say, we know that a week is a very long time in politics. Voters are fickle. We can't do anything for granted, but what we have to do is roll up those sleeves and listen to why people feel that reform is an alternative to the Conservative Party, which, as I say, they're not. They've made it clear they want to kill us off and they're having a jolly good go.
Mike, last word?
I was going to say, a minute just said that the voters are fickle. I think that referring to voters as fickle is probably representative of why the Conservatives are struggling at the moment.
It's not said fickle. I think I said, things are more changeable. I don't, you have to respect the vote. I do that.
I think the reporters will show that you call voters fickle.
Last week, and when the polling and a focus which is where to offer your advice on running campaigns. She's here to offer some advice and help to read these results as well at working with them for the world tonight. Let's kind of start with the overall picture. This was a limited number of seats in a limited number of parts of the country. How much can we read into this in terms of the state of the party's nation?
You're quite right to caveat it as such. So yes, only 23 councils, a handful of mayoral elections and one by-election in England only, and by no indeed of England, that were up for grabs last night. And as normal with local elections, turn out much lower than at the general elections. We're looking at the low 30s as opposed to somewhere between 60 and 70 depending on the election. They are important caveats. However, I do think that last night's results are incredibly significant, both in what they tell you about the mood of the country at the moment and what they suggest about what might happen next. Now, I will just say that last year, there were actually 24 local elections, and the projected national vote at the time showed that Labour had a much smaller lead over the Conservatives than the polling showed at the time. That was quite controversial. It was actually the locals that turned out to be a more accurate predictor of that than the polling at the time. So I do think that's what bear in mind as well. And you can see in the big
I thought these are real votes as opposed to most who say, how would you vote this?
Exactly, and so I think it's fascinating. So I'm not saying this is the case, but there is actually a chance that polls vastly overrepresenting the Reform Party, for example, at the moment might even be slightly underestimating them.
Right, so the polls have made this back to ahead and trying to work out how to get to this. Vote a bit more accurately to reflect it. What colours does it leave to the party? Because, for example, we heard in that discussion, our way and the rest of the hill is a protest vote. In the end, people will come back, and the members will come back to Labour and the Conservatives for them not to feel that reform poses a substantive threat to their future.
I think it's an odd way of looking at it, because yes, it was a protest vote. I was listening to Tony on the BBC earlier, and voters were calling in saying, yes, it was a protest vote, that was when I am protesting. And voters in this country have been protesting for quite a while, actually. It comes out in different ways. We saw it in the Brexit referendum, saw it in the 2019 election, I actually saw it in giving Labour its majority in 2024. So just because something's a protest vote doesn't mean it's any less stubborn or persistent. So I do not conclude, look, the Reform Party already proved they were expensive and conservative.
Rząd federalny Austrii zakaz komórek w szkołach obejmuje wszystkie kraje związkowe. Jeśli uczeń urządzenie jednak przyniesie, trafi ono na czas lekcji do specjalnego depozytu, jak tłumaczy austriacki minister edukacji.